In 2023, Wallet Hub ranked San Francisco as the 10th best city in the US to raise a family. Even though many people feel San Francisco is unsafe, it's actually a fabulous place to raise a family. But with 89 different neighborhoods to choose from, how do you choose which one is best for you? Today, I'm going to take you out and I'm going to show you 10 of the best neighborhoods for families to live in. I'm going to show you what kinds of things families look for to decide if it's a great neighborhood for them to live in, and also some things to avoid. I'm Ruth, and I've actually raised two boys, a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old right here, and I've worked with over 1,000 families over the years. So I think it's safe to say that I know San Francisco from a family perspective. So what are people looking for? I think a lot of times people are looking for great parks, a playground, a great place to play, to meet other families, a sense of community. They're also looking for schools. All the neighborhoods that I'm going to show you today have great access to both public, private, religious, language immersion schools, all with different kinds of learning styles. They're also looking for a very specific floor plan, usually for their growing families. They want to have 3 bedrooms on one level. We're gonna go into that a little bit more, and I'm also gonna tell you some things to avoid. More on that in a minute. Let's go over to Lake Street, which Lake and Jordan Park are gonna start out at number 1. So let's learn a little bit more about those neighborhoods. Here we go. So both Lake Street, where I'm standing now, and Jordan Park are actually really close to each other in terms of proximity. They're also really close in terms of what they offer. So both of them sit really close to Golden Gate Park. It's about a 10-minute drive. And what is better than being near the park with your kids? It's awesome. They're also close to Presidio Park, which has a ton of trails, playgrounds, golf courses, all of that. Also, check out these streets. They're super flat. So I don't know if you've ever tried to teach your kid how to ride a bike on a hill, but it is not fun. So these streets are going to be really great for walking around, meeting other families, riding your bikes together. Also, they're really beautiful tree-lined streets. So both neighborhoods are going to be a little bit foggier. The weather is good, not great on this side of town. These neighborhoods are at the top of the price point, and when you're at the top of the price point, you generally get what a lot of people call like a perfect house. So what many people tell me is a perfect home is they want 3 bedrooms on one level with 2 baths. They want to walk into like an entertainment space that has a powder room, kitchen, family room, and then go downstairs. Often there's going to be like an au pair suite or an in-law suite for your parents to come and have long visits, and then a family room down below. And of course, a walkout backyard. So the prices here are usually going to range somewhere between about 3 and 6 million. Sometimes you see things going into the 7s, maybe even a little bit higher than that. On a price per square foot, it's actually not the highest price per square foot out of all of these neighborhoods. So even though I put it as the most expensive, the homes are bigger, so the finished price is the more expensive. But on a price per square foot, relatively it can be a deal depending on what you're looking at. Another thing about this neighborhood and Jordan Park is that the walkability is pretty solid. Just like I said, the streets are really flat. You've got Clement Street over here on this side. There's tons of really, really great Asian food, but also a lot of really high-end California cuisine, a lot of different mixes, tons of stuff there to walk to. And then as you get closer to Jordan Park, you've actually got Laurel Village there. And then you've got Sacramento Street, which has a good shopping district, a lot of things to pick up, some cafes, there's some good grocery stores and that sort of thing. So walkability, it's a nice quality of life if you can just walk with your family or by yourself to the grocery store, pick up some things, grab a coffee, that sort of thing. All right, going on to number 3, let's run over to the park over here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about St. Francis Wood. So coming in at number 3, we have St. Francis Wood. St. Francis Wood is a really cool neighborhood. It feels very different than most neighborhoods in San Francisco. The streets are really wide, and also the lots are really big too. So the houses are really set apart from each other. And so you just feel a little like you're in Southern California. It's very, very beautiful. It's one of only 8 master plan communities in San Francisco. I would say that it's a step above many of the neighborhoods in terms of how it feels on this side of town. If you took one of the houses in St. Francis Wood and moved them over to Broadway Street in Pacific Heights, you'd be paying 3 or 4 times as much money. I want to say the houses look a lot more expensive than they are, but they're not cheap. So the price in St. Francis Wood is going to run you around $3 to $6 million, with the average price per square foot being right around $1,200. The downside to the neighborhood is that it's actually a bit foggy, like foggier than Lake Street, foggier than Jordan Park. There are some parts of the neighborhood and some homes where you get some peekaboo views of the ocean. The homes themselves, they're pretty epic. Like, they feel really gracious. You walk into the hallways, the ceilings are very high. Like, there's space that you don't need, which actually isn't really a thing in San Francisco a lot of times. I feel like we maximize every little piece of space in a house, and I've seen babies' bedrooms and closets, I kid you not, but the master bedrooms are really large. There's large foyers. There's just a lot more space, and the houses feel very, very grand. As far as parks go, you're never far from any park in San Francisco, but within St. Francis Wood itself, they have their own tennis courts, basketball courts, and a lot of little green spaces throughout the neighborhood, so it doesn't disappoint from that standpoint. The other thing that's pretty cool, and that I've had a number of families tell me, is that they like the proximity to Lowell High School, which is one of the country's top-rated magnet schools. Now let's move on to the next neighborhood. So coming in at number 4 is Cole Valley, and I love Cole Valley because it's walkable to Golden Gate Park, and I'm sure I've told you guys before that I love Golden Gate Park. Being able to walk there with my family, I can't even imagine it. We spent so many Sundays there. They shut down the streets and you can just be there with your kids, riding bikes, watching music, like watching people dancing. Like, it's just a really, really fun day. And plus, my kids play soccer. There's a lot of soccer going on in the park, so that would have been super, super convenient. The other thing about Cole Valley that's really interesting is that it doesn't have a lot of condos. So I had a friend that moved from Nopa to Cole Valley, and one of the things that she told me is that she felt like she finally had a real sense of community, that people were putting down roots there, because the homes are all about 3,000 square feet, so people don't go there to find their next home. They go there because that is their home that they plan to stay in for a while. So last year there were only 9 sales in Cole Valley. There's not a lot of turnover there, and she loves that because she makes friends that stay there. And so that's gonna really lend to that sense of community. The housing stock there is super, super similar. It's all Edwardians, Victorians, so it all looks really, really beautiful. You have those perfect floor plans that I already told you about before. And then the other thing that Cole Valley has is it has a really nice downtown. So there's a lot of little shops, restaurants. There's a place called Zazi's that I used to take my kids to a lot. They have these Mickey Mouse shaped pancakes. There's just a lot of really cute little eateries. There's also a train, and it's really centrally located. So getting in and out of there is really, really easy. It's not super flat, but it's also not super hilly. So Cole Valley is going to be a great choice to raise your family as well. So budget-wise, a home there is going to run you between about $3 and $5 million, but sometimes a little bit higher than that. I actually just sold a home a couple of days ago in Cole Valley for $5.2 million, and it's amazing. My clients couldn't be more thrilled, and it's big. It's got 3, 4 bedrooms on one level, and then really, really nice views because it's a little bit up the hill. On a price per square foot, right now, Cole Valley is running about $14.50, which is one of the highest priced neighborhoods that we're gonna talk about today in terms of price per square foot. But again, when I ranked these for you, I was thinking more about end price than I was thinking about price per square foot. So next up, we're gonna talk about Noi Valley, which is also a really great neighborhood. All right, I'm gonna take a break and sit down. Coming in at number 5, we have Noi Valley. Noi Valley is a really cute, it's got a really cute little downtown. It's surrounded by hills, and that actually keeps out the fog. So we have a ton of microclimates in San Francisco, and a lot of it that keeps things sunny is oftentimes the hills that are keeping it out. Keep in mind in Noi Valley, the flat parts of Noi are actually going to be the most expensive and have the best weather. And as you walk up the hill or drive up the hill, you're going to get a little bit more fog, a little bit more wind, and the prices are going to go down just a little bit. So overall, Noi Valley, it's got a really, really great sense of community. You see a lot of strollers around there, lots of families around there. There's tons of little parks spread throughout. There's also Dolores Park really close by, where there always seems to be a really big kids party going on in Dolores Park. But there's a new playground there, so you have this mix of, honestly, people like partying and playing, and then kids playing. It's a very interesting San Francisco experience. Also, you've got Glen Canyon Park that's really close to Noi Valley as well. The price point in Noi Valley is going to be, you're going to be able to get in for about 3 to 5 million. Average price per square foot is around $1,300. You're going to see a wider range of price here because there really are a lot of condos mixed in with single family homes, which opens it up to a little bit more, I would say, economic diversity, which actually can be a great thing for the community. The other thing about Noi that attracts some people to it is that it's really close to the freeway. So if you happen to work in tech down in the peninsula, then being able to get back home to help with dinner or soccer practice or anything like that, it's going to be a relatively shorter commute. I mean, probably like 40 minutes still, so not super short. But overall, Noi Valley is going to be a really, really great pick in terms of a place for your family to live. Next up, we're going to talk about the Sunset. Coming in at number 6, we have the Sunset. I found this really great place in the park. Look at these trees. They're so cool. I was like, anyway, we're in Park Presidio right now. These are really beautiful. But I want to tell you about the Sunset, so let me get back to it. So the Sunset, it stretches all along Golden Gate Park. So obviously really great from that standpoint. But then you also have the beach. The Sunset, you have Inner Sunset, Central Sunset, and Outer Sunset. And as you get closer to the beach, the thing that you get is a little bit more fog. I'm not gonna lie, the whole thing is a little bit foggy, but it gets a lot foggy as you get to the beach. And as you get into fog zones, I've told you guys this before, but you end up getting a little bit better price. So also the Inner Sunset is really, really great for food. There's a tartine over there. There's also a Marnie Thai that I really like. There's this place called Forella. I think I'm not butchering that. It's amazing. They've got great pizzas and great drinks and great salads. There's another one of those opening in Noi. But there's just a ton of really, really good food, really great shopping. That's all in the Inner Sunset. You start to lose that a little bit as you go out. But I've had friends and clients that have lived there. One of my clients told me that there were gates in all of the yards that the kids could go into, and you had to just kind of call the neighbors to find out where your kids were because they would just play together in all of the houses. I mean, that would be a dream for me to raise my kids that way. So anyway, I think it's a great, great place to raise a family. The other thing about the Sunset is price. Let's talk a little bit about that. So the price is a little bit lower, and I would say it's got hit, it hasn't quite come back from the 2022 market correction, we'll call it, with the interest rates going way up. So currently the average price there is around $1,000 a square foot. At its heyday, it was in the 13s. I would say probably the house that you're gonna want there, maybe a little bit more than that. But the entry price there is about 1.9. So you can find a good home in the mid 2s, and then they definitely do go up to 3 and sometimes over that. So you really get a little bit more for your money in the Sunset, and it's a fantastic location to live. I have so many homes that I sold there to clients. I once had a party where I gathered them all together because they were all so amazing and I wanted them to meet. And next up, we're gonna talk about the Richmond, and I'm gonna try to find you another cool spot, so let's go. Okay, next up, I told you I was gonna find you a cool spot. I'm gonna like walk sideways for you. Next up, we're gonna talk about the Richmond. So the Richmond, that was actually my very first neighborhood in San Francisco over 20 years ago. I loved living there because I lived right on the park. I loved to run on the park, go down to the beach. It's super, super flat. It is foggy. The Richmond was named as one of the top coolest cities in the world, if you can believe that. So it is really, really cool, especially the outer Richmond. You have this very like beach vibe thing going on, and all these surfers there. They own these different shops and restaurants, and there's all this surfer stuff going on that feels very cool to a non-surfer. But you've got the beach on one side of you, you've got the park, so you can go hiking and then be surfing in 15 minutes. Baker Beach is also there, which is where I got engaged. So anyway, Richmond has a very, very special place in my heart. One of the things that I love about it, I'm gonna get down. One of the things that I love about it is that the homes there are really, really well suited to that family plan, but they're a little bit more reasonable. So for the homes that are situated like that with 3 bedrooms and 2 baths up, you actually could get one somewhere between $2.5 and really about $3.5, sometimes $4 million. So a lot more affordable than places like Noi Valley or Lake Street corridor for a home like that. One of the downsides, I would say, that's also a little bit of an upside, they have really, really big yards, but because it is so flat there, a lot of times, depending on the house, but many of the houses, the yards feel a little bit like they're having this fishbowl effect, where the houses that are around it, they all kind of look into each other. So I would say that's a little bit of a downside, but I'll take it to have a really big backyard, especially if that backyard walks right off of my kitchen, because that is like the total dream in terms of quality of life. The last thing I'll say about the Richmond is that as you do go further out to those avenues, the prices do come down a bit, so you can actually get a home out there for like $1.4, $1.5, $1.6. So much more reasonable price, and that's true on the Sunset side as well. Like as you get close to the ocean, you're really getting a smaller home for sure. You're giving up that big family floor plan, but then you're getting in at a bit more affordable price. Next up, we're gonna talk about Burnell, and let me see if I can top my tree. Let's see. All right, my walk on this tree did not work out, but that's all right. Let's keep going. Next up, let's talk about Burnell. So Burnell is a great neighborhood. You get good weather in Burnell, which is awesome. We have Burnell at number 8. Burnell is located close to a freeway, so getting down, just like Noe, getting out to Tech is gonna be really easy to do. It's a great neighborhood. You have a hill on top, which probably has some of the most epic views in all of San Francisco. I don't know if it's still there, but there used to be a swing up there that was really, really cute. So that's a great place to walk your dog, walk around. It's not a long walk, but it's just amazing, amazing views. Burnell has a couple different parts to it. Actually it's got a lot of parts to it. In fact, my business partner, Yesenia, who was born and raised in Burnell, she actually did a separate video, which I'll link below, which talks about all the parts, because it actually feels like 7 neighborhoods in one. But just to make it short, you kind of had North Slope and South Slope. So the North Slope, you're gonna see probably a little bit more like younger techies living there, because their walkability is gonna be Mission, and they also have walkability to the 24th Street BART. And so walking over there is great. On the south side, maybe a little bit more families and stuff living there, a little bit more strollers. Cortlandt Avenue is where you're gonna see a lot of the shops and restaurants. There's some really great restaurants there. Vega is a really, really great place. There's also really solid sushi. There's a, I wanna say Nepalese place there. Just a lot of really good restaurants, little Mexican place. Not a ton, but a solid like 10, 15 places. There's a couple of parks. There's Presida Park on the North Slope, which is this nice flat park with all of these houses surrounding. And I just think that's great, because at the end of a long day, you can go down there with your kids, maybe a bottle of wine or a bubbly glass of water, whatever is your choice, and hang out and meet other families and play and not have to drive anywhere. So I think those like parks located right inside, especially with the houses surrounding, just really brings the community together. Also, in Burnell, one of the things I really like about it is it's got some really affordable prices. So you can sometimes find a home under $2 million, even sometimes in the 1.5s. It's going to be a fixer. I'd say more than likely, most of the homes that you're gonna see there that you might wanna buy are probably gonna be between about 2 and 2.5. Sometimes they go up to 3 million, but there is a nice variety of price there. One of the things that I've noticed in Burnell, I don't know why, but it has like an unfair share of like weird unwarranted construction, not in all of the homes, but in some of the homes. In fact, I was walking through a home the other day and I was like, oh, this feels like a Burnell house. It was just this weird, unwarranted downstairs. So you do see a little bit of that. Sometimes the streets are a little bit too tight for some people's liking, but then there's other streets that are wide open. So that's one of the negative feedbacks I hear about Burnell from time to time. Overall though, it's really great sense of community. I see people really coming together around like different activities and different things like that. So I think it's a great place to raise a family. Next up, we're gonna talk about West Portal. All right, let me tell you a little bit about West Portal. So West Portal, it's a really cute little area. It has a train, it has a walkable street with some restaurants, some shops, kind of one of everything. It also is a little foggy. The train is a great draw for it. And I would say that a lot of times my clients who end up not being able to afford Noi Valley sometimes move over to West Portal to get a little bit more for their money. So they're giving up the sun and they're giving up a little bit of the coolness of a walkable street. Not that Noi Valley has like the most epic walkable corridor, like compared to Chestnut Street or Fillmore Street, it doesn't compare. But I would say West Portal, their walkable street is something that you'd probably walk to if you lived there, but you wouldn't drive to if you didn't. They do have a couple of new restaurants coming in. So Little Original Joe's just opened up there, and that's a good restaurant. It's a chain around the city, really solid San Francisco restaurant. And then there's a Mexican place called Elena's that recently opened. I have not eaten there, but I heard it was really good. My friends and I were actually gonna go there for dinner, but they don't take reservations. And we were actually really worried about where else we might wanna eat if we couldn't get in. But there's a solid like Indian place, a solid sushi place. There's like a Squat and Gobble. So definitely like, you know, if you live there and you wanna walk somewhere, there's some great restaurants and it's a little bit more affordable on the price point. As far as housing stock goes, you're gonna see a wide range of variety in terms of the kinds of homes. There's some Mediterranean homes there, which I really like. There's also a mix of just little bungalows and I would say some like more modern style homes. So good mix of housing stock. And you're pretty close to a lot of different parks in the neighborhood. It's overall like a really nice place for families. All right, so the last neighborhood on my list is a little bit of a hidden gem. I've talked about it before, but if you haven't been watching me, you may have never even heard of this neighborhood. It's called Mission Terrace, and actually I think it has a ton going for it. It's located really close to the freeway, so for the tech people getting in and out, that's awesome. It's just below Burnell Heights. It has pretty good weather. I would say 7 out of 10. It can get a little bit windy there. Flat streets. It also is walkable. You have 2 BART stations close by, one in the neighborhood and one in Glen Park. There's also a couple of really great parks. You've got John McLaren Park, which is one of the largest parks in the entire city, and then Balboa Park as well, which has a pool, tennis courts, basketball courts. I have clients and friends that live there, and the things that they tell me about the community in the neighborhood, like I'm just blown away. Like people really taking care of their neighbors, watching each other's kids, dropping off groceries for each other. Like it just seems like it has a really great sense of community. I actually ended up going there last Halloween with my kids and my sister, and we met some friends over there and we did Halloween trick-or-treating in the neighborhood and then went over to Noi Valley, and it was really fun. Very beautiful like sense of community in the neighborhood. One thing that I would say is that the walkability part, like the restaurants and stuff that you're walking to, you definitely wouldn't go out of your way to drive there. It doesn't have that like really cute, like boutique-y, like, oh, let's go, I want to get out of my car and walk here feel for the whole like strip. And I will say that I think like maybe 15 years ago or something, I thought for sure like, okay, this neighborhood is going to like, more things are gonna happen here because it has so much going for it when you talk about like what makes neighborhoods valuable, like sun, walkability, public transit, easy access to the freeway, like it checks every box. But I'll tell you, in 15 years, I haven't seen it change much in terms of like the commercial corridors really coming up and being developed and that sort of thing. But for price, it's amazing. So basically for a single family home, you're looking at between about 1.3 million to about 1.7 million. And if you remember when we talked about Burnell, I told you that you're probably going to be in the low to mid twos in that neighborhood, and it's really right there. Also, the housing stock is really solid. A lot of the homes were built around like 1930s, little bungalows and stuff, and a lot of them have like room to develop down, like good ceiling heights, really big garages, so like easy to expand. So I would say that Mission Terrace is a great neighborhood to put on your list of family-friendly neighborhoods, especially if you're looking to be on a little bit of the lower end of the budget. All right, all of this can be a lot to remember, so I broke all of this down for you in a PDF, which I'll link below if you want to grab that. Also, I've only listed 10 of the neighborhoods, but there's a ton of other neighborhoods, a ton of other price points. So if you want to get into your specific needs, just feel free to text us at this number right here or email us at hello@ruthkrishnan.com. Again, we've helped over 1,000 families and we would love to help you with your home search as well. Feel free to contact us. And if you want a deeper dive into one of these neighborhoods, feel free to watch this video next.